Good morning. Here we are. We're starting chapter 2, lesson 1, which we're going to now focus on linear equations. So it's very important that you have a ruler. Sometimes it takes kids weeks to get a ruler. And so it's very frustrating for them because in ninth grade, if you don't have a ruler, you're not going to be accurate enough on your graphs because you're freehanding it, and you're going to be frustrated because some of the answers that you come up with freehand are not going to be the correct answers. So get a ruler if you don't have one already. You desperately need one. All right, let's do this warm up here. This girl here, she's going to buy a bike for 360 bucks, and she's considering two payment options. The image shows option A, which consists of making a down payment. So she might go in and put some money down, and whatever's left, she's going to spread that payments out, and she's going to pay the bike shop guy the same amount every week. And then another one, she says, well, option B consists of making, so this is her down payment graph. It kind of goes like this. Let's see if I can get the number on. So she made a down payment, and so now her payments are spread out like that. But option B consists of, well, she has no money to put down. She walks in and says, hey, I want to buy a bike. I promise to pay you the same amount every week. And so down here, she has no down payment, and so her payments are spread across here weekly. Okay? So what they want to know is what factors should she consider before deciding between A or B. So if you're buying a bike, what kinds of decisions do you have to make about your down payment, or should you just go with a no down payment? So it's kind of, this happens all the time in the real world. You're going to buy a car, you see it advertised on TV all the time. Hey, no money down, come in, we'll give you a car and spread your payments out over 5 years. Or when you walk in, they'll say, well, are you putting down a payment? And you say, yeah, I'm going to put in 5,000 bucks. Well, what's that going to do to your payment over the rest of the 5 years? So kind of start thinking about these things. Okay, and what would affect whether this girl can make a down payment or not? Okay, so again, I get it. You're in ninth grade, and so, but I think you can do it. So think about some things that she needs to think about as to whether her payments, the size of her payments, and how much money she puts down. Just write something there that would be something logical. Okay. And then down here says, suppose Allie could modify A and still pay off the bike in 5 weeks. Describe the relationship. So if she modified A, meaning she made a bigger down payment, what would happen to her weekly payments? I think you're smart enough to kind of know that. So sometimes I'll do some math over here and I'll just pick some numbers. And we know she's paying 360 bucks for the bike, I believe. Yeah. So kind of do some math over here. Even though they don't tell you to, just make up some numbers. Hey, what happens if she puts 100 bucks down? And what would that do to her payments? All right. So a lot of times kids are now looking at me like, oh, I'm not going to do all that work. Jump in, do something, even though you know the answer's on the next page. Okay, give it a shot. It makes you think, and then you can see it perhaps from another person's point of view. All right, so pause your video, take the time to answer those questions. Got a big day today. All right, here's what I did. First of all, on letter A, I said, well, she has to think about how much she can afford. She's got utilities and things like that she's got to pay for, and so she's got to think about how much she can afford. And so if you look at my payments over here, if she had no down payment at all, she'd be paying 60 bucks a month, or excuse me, 60 bucks a week. But, you know, if she made a down payment and I just made up a number of 100 bucks, took away 100, so now she owes 260, and she spread that across 6 weeks, well, now her payment went down to $43. So maybe she can't afford 60, but she can afford 43 bucks. So that's one thing to consider, is how much of a payment she can afford. And then down here, I also thought, well, she needs to know how much she can do for a down payment. She might be totally broke right now, and she needs a bike so that she can get to work. So she doesn't have any money for a down payment, but she can't get a job if she can't get to work. And so that's going to make her a big payment here. But maybe mom and dad can drive her to work for a while, and so she saved up some money, and she says, you know what, I'm tired of mom and dad driving me to work now, so now I'm going to put my down payment, and I want to buy it, and that made my payments go down a little bit, that she can afford it. So again, just two of many different things she needs to consider. Okay? Suppose she could modify A and still pay the bike off in 5 weeks. Well, if she could modify it, then she would say, hey, you know what? I want to, instead of $100, I want to pay $200 down payment. Well, that would make her payment over here even less. Okay? So, some things to think about. Okay? All right. Now, we're going to take a lot of notes right here because they assume that you know this stuff from junior high. The slope intercept form, linear, and I get it. You've been out of school for a couple months. And if you don't do it for a while, you kind of forget some things. So, hopefully, with a little bit of memory here triggering, we can say, oh yeah, I remember that. For example, slope. Usually we use the letter M for slope, okay? And then we have this thing called the slope formula that looks something like this. Y sub 2 minus Y sub 1 over X sub 2 minus X sub 1. That should sound real familiar to you, okay? Because you should have done a whole lot of that in junior high. Now, I'm just going to make up two coordinates here, and maybe this will trigger. I'm going to say 2, negative 3. And I'm just making up some numbers, 4, 6. These are two coordinates, okay? Now, if this still looks like gibberish to you, this might help. This is my x part of this coordinate, and this is my y part of this coordinate, but this is my first coordinate, so that's what the sub 1's mean. This is the x part of my second coordinate, and this is the y part of my second coordinate, and this is why they call it sub 2. The 1 and the 2 means first coordinate, second coordinate. Very important. It doesn't matter which coordinate you call 1 or 2. You could have flipped these guys around. The slope will still be the same. Okay, so now this is how you use that formula, and we hope you can do this very efficiently. Y sub 2 is this guy, 6, minus what's in the formula, minus 3. Back over to x sub 2, which is 4, minus, in the formula, 2. So now we got plus here, because a minus minus is a plus, so that's 9, and 4 minus 2 is 2. Now, that's an improper fraction, but because we're doing slope, we're going to leave it that way unless it's a word problem, okay? But we always want to reduce it. If that was, let's say, 18 halves, well, 2 still goes into both of those guys, and so we always reduce, okay? But that guy can't be reduced. It can be made into a mixed number, but he can't be reduced. There's no number that goes into 2 and 9. So that would be our slope for that guy. And we would write m equals 9 halves. That's what the slope is, okay? Slope-intercept form is this guy. It's the one of 3 different ways to write an equation. It's the easiest way to graph y equals mx plus b. Slope-intercept form. Well, we just found the slope. That guy's going to go right there, okay? And the b, I want to go down here to y-intercept. The y-intercept is the b up here on this equation. I'm also going to say that's where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay, so very important, this part and this guy, 2 parts of this equation right here that's going to help us graph, and then if they give us a graph, it's going to help us write the equation, or if it's a word problem, then we'll find the slope, and then we'll go and find out how much was on the card, gift card or something first. These 2 guys are very important that we need to understand what they are. Linear equation just means a straight line. Anything that's linear is a straight line with a ruler. Can have a positive slope or a negative slope. Those are our 2 choices. Well, no, we have other choices. We could have a straight up and down line. And then we could also have one that's like this. This is a slope of 0 and this is a slope of undefined, okay? But straight line. Okay. Let's go moving on here. let's see, understanding slope-intercept form. Consider this equation. We just got to know where the parts are when they give us an equation like this. And so they're going to ask us things about the y-intercept and what is the slope. So if they ask us, well, what's the slope in this line right here? Well, the slope is right here. Okay, so we would say, hey, what's the slope? They would say m equals 4/5. That's the guy. It's always right in front of the x, no matter what that number is. If they ask us what the y-intercept is, this is this guy. Y-intercept is 2. So now if we went to graph this guy, what we would do is we'd look at this guy first, is where we start, and we say, hey, you know what, the y-intercept is a 2, so we put a dot on 2. And then we go up a slope. Now, very important, I always predict when I'm doing my slope before I go over and start plotting it. This is a positive slope, so in my head I'm thinking that line should be going upwards like this. Okay? So, very important that you predict the slope before you go draw it. Okay? Because the biggest mistake is when it's a negative slope over there, kids always draw a positive slope. Okay? But it's rise over run, so that means you go up 4, that's the numerator, and then you go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, make a dot. You could go up 1, 2, 3, 4 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and usually 3 dots is sufficient on a linear line that you can line up your ruler and draw that line. Okay? So I love it when they give me an equation in y equals mx plus b form, they say go graph that thing. Okay? Easy one to graph. Alright, that's just telling you the steps to get there. Alright, you give this one a shot. Using the parts, the y-intercept and the slope. Try graphing that guy. This is why you need a ruler. Alright, let's see how you did. I'm hoping that you put a dot on -5. So the y-axis is right here. So I came down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put a dot. Now again, this is very important. There's my slope, it's a negative. Now you can put that negative on the top, or you can put that negative sign on the bottom. It's fluid, either the top or the bottom. Okay? Since I want to look at this first one, that first one says go down 3 from the dot that you just drew. Well, I can't go down 3, so that guy's not an option right now. So I want to use this guy where I want to go up 1, 2, 3, and then I want to go to the left 1, 2, 3, 4. And just as I was talking about, that's a negative slope. And so before I even draw that thing, because what kids do is they get stuck here and they want to go this way, 3, but it's a negative, so that means you have to go to the left. And I predict it, and when I'm done, I look at my line and say, yep, I have a negative slope there, and I drew a negative slope. It only takes a second to double check that. But again, notorious kids will make it a positive slope. I'm not sure why. They just like to go up and to the right all the time. Okay? If they say to write an equation from a graph, this is like super easy, I hope, and they want it in slope-intercept form. We're going to have 3 different forms: slope-intercept form, point-slope form, and standard form. So you got to know the difference between the 3 of them. So when they say slope-intercept form, that is y equals mx plus b form. So when we do this, normally we just go and take the easy part first. I like to do my b right here. That means the y-intercept. The y-intercept is right there. It crosses at a +1 on the y-axis. Now, that's always going to be an x, this is always going to be a y, so the only piece I'm still missing is my slope. And as I look at that line, that's a negative slope line, so I know it's got to be a negative something. So if you're going to go from this dot to this one, well, we go down 1, 2, 3, so we went down 3, and then we went 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. Okay? Now, you could also, some kids do this. They say, you know what, because these little lines aren't on here, they said, you know what, I want to go from this dot to this one, so I want to go up 1, 2, 3, it's right there, so I went up 3, but now you're going to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, so there's my negative part. So both of these guys are negative slopes, and that's a negative slope line. So usually when we go to write our final equation, we just put the negative sign out front, negative 3/4 x, and then we had our y-intercept at +1. That leaves the person that's going to go graph it to decide, do I want the negative sign on the top or the bottom? Okay, as long as you got one negative sign there, I'm good. Okay, but you can see over here they drew it out in front. Okay, all right, you give it a shot. Draw me or write me an equation in slope-intercept form. Pay attention to this. Again, we're going to have 3 different forms, and right now they're saying slope-intercept form. So in the back of my head, I'm thinking y equals mx plus b. We need these 2 parts from that graph over there. All right, pause your video and try writing that equation. Okay, let's see how I did, and you. My y-intercept over here was at a -2. There's 0. This is my y-axis. Most of the time in 9th grade, they don't put this y-x stuff here anymore. They just give you graph paper, okay? That's my y-axis, and so it's a -2. There it is. I look at this line, and it's a positive slope, so I'm going to keep that in mind. And so I went up 1, 2. That's my numerator. That's the y part. And then I went over 1, 2, 3 to the left. Or to the right, sorry. So that's positive. There's my equation. Nice easy one to write. Now this is where it gets a little more challenging because we got lots of work to do here. Okay, so we're going to kind of do the work over here because they did a lot of helping us here. Okay, so let's do this first. Here's my 2 coordinates, and so the first step, always the first step is when they give us 2 coordinates is find the slope. Kids will sit there for minutes on end saying, boy, I don't even know where to begin. Find the slope. Okay, now this gets back to they assume you know the slope formula that we reviewed. This is x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2. And so hopefully, see how they don't give you the slope formula? Hopefully you just do this, that you've done it so much. This is y2 minus y sub 1. That's what I do, is I take an arrow and I draw from this guy to this guy, and I say 4 minus, that's in the formula, minus 2 over, and then I draw a line underneath, x sub 2, which is a 3, minus 1. I put these guys in parentheses like that because this is the negative that's in the formula. Circle the minus minus, that becomes a plus, that becomes 6. Circle the minus minus, that becomes a plus, so 3 plus 1 is 4. Now we always reduce. Some kids aren't good at reducing. They don't remember reducing, or they've forgotten. Most kids can reduce this. They'll say, what number goes both into 6 and 4 evenly? Well, 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 4 2 times. Okay? So there's my slope. Always your slope gets reduced. Now, if you get some weird number that you don't know to reduce, you could put it in your calculator. And I'd do 6 divided by 4, and you might try this right now. Do 6 divided by 4. It gives you the decimal, 1.5, but then change it back to a fraction, and it has the fraction already reduced for you. So that's a fast way to get a fraction reduced, okay? But you really should be able to, all right? All right, so there's my slope right there. Now, the next step is take one of these coordinates. It doesn't matter which one. They picked this one, I can tell right here, because there's a 3 right there where the x goes. There's a 4 right there where the y goes in the y position. So again, in my head, I'm thinking y equals mx plus b. We found the slope. Boom, goes there. Now you could use either one of these equations, and if I have a choice, I'm going to try to stay away from these negative ones. Okay, it's not a big deal, but a lot of times kids will kind of lose their negative signs or forget that a negative times a positive is still a negative. Anyhow, they did the one that I would have done. So we do this, I get 9 halves. They minus 9 halves from both sides. And if I took 4, take away 9 halves, I get my b, which is a negative 1/2. And so now I go write my final equations. I have the 2 parts that I need. There's my y-intercept. There's my slope. And I write my equation and put a box around it. Okay? Alright, that's a whole lot of steps there. Well, 2 steps really, but a lot of math. Alright, you give it a try. Again, the first step is always find the slope. Go find the slope of that guy real quick. Pause your video, and let's see how you do on writing your first equation from junior high, refreshing your memory. Alright, let's see how you did. All right. I gave you graph paper over there just so you could check your work. There should not have been graph paper there, so I slid that in there for you. Okay, so there's my slope formula. I took 6 minus 4, there's a minus in the formula, -1 minus 5. So again, I do this. This number, take away this one, goes on top. This one, take away this one, goes on the bottom. So I did my math, I got 2 6, I reduced it down to 1/3. So I start to write my equation. I already know half my equation. I know it's going to be a y equals, I just found the slope, so -1/3 x, but I still need this guy, the b. So in the y equals mx plus b, this I keep in the back of my head here. I just found the slope. Now I need this guy. Well, I need this guy before I can do this one. So I put the slope down here. I picked one of the coordinates. I picked the one with the positives. So I put the 4 where the y position goes, and I put the 5 where the x position goes. Now I take 5 times 1/3, which is 5/3, -5/3, plus b equals 4. Added the 5/3 to both sides, and bam, I got 5 2/3. Now we get fractions. So what I did is I just wrote my equation here, but now I'm going to go check. My y-intercept is 5 2/3. So I'm just going to estimate there's 5 2/3 would be like right about there somewhere. So I made a dot right there. And then I said from that dot, I want to go down 1 because I can't go up 1, and I want to go over 3. So I went down 1. So it's going to be right about there, over 1, 2, 3. Boom, right there's a dot. I'm going to go down 1, 1, 2, 3 again. Draw my line. And now I want to go check to make sure I have it right. The first coordinate was 5, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, it falls on my line. -1, 6. That means go left 1, up 6. And yeah, it falls right there on my line. So I know my equation is right because it goes through both of those dots right there. Okay? All right. It's a lot of work. That's a lot of review from 8th grade. All right. Boy, they use some strange names here. Amari takes the subway to his summer job and back home every day. It says the cost of riding the subway is the same every day in both directions, so he goes to work and back to work. It says write me an equation represent the balance on the fare card. After each ride, the balance of his card decreases by the cost of the ride, so that makes sense. You can use the linear equation to describe the relationship. So here's our information. His balance on Monday is $45.15. Then he rides it on Monday 2 times. He rides it on Tuesday 2 times. He rides it on Wednesday 2 times. Now this is where it's a little bit strange here because he's riding it on Thursday, because I see Thursday a.m. But for some reason they said so far he must have already scanned his card here because I see a 7 right there where the 2865 is. So that's kind of a little bit strange. But they gave us the coordinates, so we're going to just go with it. On day 1, after the first ride, he has $45.15, so I guess that kind of makes sense. He wrote it and scanned it and said after 1 day, he's sitting waiting for the train, I guess, and waiting for it. So, I don't know, it's kind of strange how they got that 7. I would have probably said 6 if I didn't see these coordinates here. But they got the coordinates, so let's use them. So again, get into this pattern here. This is a real easy pattern. Instead of writing the formula, these are my y's. So I'm going to take this number, subtract this one, and that's exactly what they did over here. Then I draw the line underneath, because this is underneath on the fraction. 7 take away 1.4, or 7 take away 1, sorry. It's a 1 right there. And they did all the math. They divided it by 6, and they got -275. Okay. Now they put that 275 in for the m on the equation. They picked one of the coordinates up here. Looks like they picked 1. Sometimes 1's easier than the other one because I can do 1 times 275 without a calculator. So it looks like they used this coordinate. They put the 1 right there. They put the 4515 over here. And they did some math. That's going to be a -275 because 275 times 1 is still that. Then they added 2.75 to both sides. Please don't do weird math like this. Like they don't show any math here happening. Kind of like mental math. Show your work step by step. So this is a very bad example of, hey, you know what, you just some magic having all of a sudden you got 4790 down here. Okay? Alright. So there's our equation right there. Boom. Now we have to do some interpreting of those numbers that we did all of that work. And when you interpret, they're always going to ask two things. What does the slope mean? And what does the y-intercept mean? I want to rewrite my equation that you have up there. So it's y, so I can see it down here. Y equals minus 2.75x plus 47.9. So most kids start with what does the slope mean? You have to state it. Slope means, so we know who's who. We're asked two things, and sometimes, a lot of times at the beginning of ninth grade, kids will just have, it means that it's 275 to ride the ride and it's 4790. Well, that doesn't mean anything. You have to say slope means that each ride, now this is where common sense has to come in, it's a minus 275. Well, you're not going to say the negative. The negative means you're paying it, okay? Each ride costs $2.75, okay? We're not going to put the negative sign here. This is where you have to be a smart enough guy to know, and gal, to say, hey, you know what, it's a negative 275. He's riding the train, so it's taking 275 off every time. So that means the cost is $2.75. All right, now you need to write y-intercept means. Now, that's this guy. Now it's money. So really, they kind of cheated here a little bit. It's $47.90. Means that there is $47.90, dollar sign right there, that's my units, on the card to begin with. That was the total before he went on the first ride, because after the fourth ride it was down to $45.15. Okay, very important. I say this every year. Kids don't like to do the writing because they just want their homework to be done. You got to state this. Slope means, y-intercept means, and then take and interpret these two numbers. That's very important as you get older in math in the real world. How many times can they ride the subway before she needs to add money on her card? Well, every time she rides it's $2.75, and she's beginning with $47.50. So let's do $47.90, and she's riding it, and it costs $2.75. So let's see how many 275s are in $47.90. And I'm getting a 17.41. There's an 8 next door, so I want to round it to the hundreds, because that's most of the time what I do. It's 418, so it looks like this in my calculator with more digits. Well, the 1 is in the hundreds place. There's an 8 next door, so 17.42. But that's not the number. You can't go and ride the subway 0.42 times. So now we have to interpret this even a little bit more. We have two choices. We could round it down to 17, or we could round it up to 18. You can't go 0.42, whatever it is, miles, or on the trip. There's no such thing. It's either you go 17 or you go 18. Okay? So now we have to think about this. If I went with the 18, we round it up, but that means she's not going to have enough money to go on the 18. She's only got 42 cents or 42 hundredths right here. So she doesn't have enough. So now we have to say, you know what, we're going to round down. We're still going to have some money on our card because it's a 0.42, but I have to round it down. So you need to say she can ride. I don't know, what is it, a tram? I can't even remember. A train? She can ride the train, I think it's a train, 17 times. Now that's a little bit of a problem because even numbers would get her to work and back. So she's going to get to work one day. If she didn't put money on her card, she's going to be stuck there because she won't have enough money to come back. So that can't be good. So hopefully she plans her rides a little bit more efficient than that. That'd be terrible to have to stay at work. All right. All right, you give this one a shot. We're on coffees. See if you can make 2 coordinates real quick out of that. After 2 coffees, the balance on the card is 1970. After 4 coffees, the balance is 1340. So really all the time we're looking for 2 coordinates. And write those coordinates. 4 and 1970. There's my first coordinate. My second coordinate is going to be after 4 coffees. It's $13.40. Alright, so now go do those steps. Start with the slope. Get the slope. And then take that slope and take one of those coordinates and then go find your B, your y-intercept. Alright, pause your video. It's going to take a little while. And then let's see how we did. Don't just roll to the next one and just copy. That's not helping you. Okay, so try it. Let's see how you do. If you don't get it right, let's see where you made the mistake. Learning, this is okay to make mistakes. Alright, here we go. Here we go. See how I did. There's where I'm finding my slope. Got over there and it was a negative 315 over 1. So right away I start to write my equation over here. Y equals, and I put that negative 315 right there. That's my slope. So now I'm going to do some more work. I'm thinking in my head, y equals mx plus b. Oops. I got my slope right there. I need a y, so I picked this coordinate. I need my x, I picked the 2 out of the same coordinate. And now I need this guy, my b. So I did my work. 2 times 315 is 630, negative. Added 630 to both sides, and I got 26 bucks. So then that goes right here in the equation. So there's our first thing that we were asked to do. Write me an equation. And then it says, well, now tell me and interpret the parts. There's 2 parts on the equation. There's the slope. The slope means the cost of the coffee is $3.15. Boom, there it is. And now what's the y-intercept? That $26 right there. Well, she has a gift card. So that means there was 26 bucks on her gift card to begin with. Okay? So, 2 very important things. And they jump in there assuming that you know how to write these equations. Okay? We jump right to word problems. So, Mrs. Tilton and I are kind of discussed that maybe we'll do some practice on slope and maybe some practice on writing an equation given 2 coordinates just to make sure that we can do this before we jump into the word problems online. Okay? Alright, so here's our summary at the end. Slope and y-intercept, those are the 2 important parts on slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form looks exactly like that. It always looks like that, y equals mx plus b. We learned how to graph one from slope-intercept form. And then we also know how to take a graph and write it in slope-intercept form. Find the y-intercept first, which was a negative 1. Go find my slope. It's a negative slope right there. Boom. Go down 2 over 1. That's a negative 2 over 1, or just negative 2. All right, well, that's quite a bit for the first day. All right, so whatever your teacher gives you, if it's a paperwork, go ahead and do that paper. If not, go do the online assignment, and hopefully you'll be in school tomorrow. Have a good day.